Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Commissioner's Court. Let's get started and stand. We'll have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you, Lord, for Titus County. We thank you for those that work for the county, for those that contribute to the county with their taxes. We thank you for those that support us in so many ways. At this time, Lord, we just turn this meeting over to you and ask that you be our mind and our guide, and that you give us the wisdom that is needed to make decisions on behalf of this county. We ask that you would preside here tonight, and we just give you the glory and the praise. Lord, we thank you for each citizen of this county, for their families, for those that are here that are representing those families. We ask for safe travel home for each one. We pray for the things that are going on overseas, the war that continues to go on. We pray for our servicemen and women and their safe return, and for a resolution to this conflict that is going on. Right now we pray for our budget hearing. We pray for our tax hearing that will come up in a few days, and we pray for the ultimate decisions of this court. Once again, we ask for your guidance and wisdom, not only over this, but each and every day. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone to our second meeting of the month of September. This is a combination of a budget hearing, and we will begin with that budget hearing, and it is also going to be followed by our special meeting of the Commissioner's Court, our normal second meeting of the month. Today's the 22nd of September 2014. It's just after 6 p.m. And we are going to begin with item number 1, public comments and or requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Open Meetings Act. I know I've got at least one or two or several that would like to speak, and probably it will be regarding the a specific agenda item. But is there anyone that's here that would like to address the court on something that is not on the agenda? Okay, just making sure. We're going to move straight on into our main item tonight, and that is going to be item number 2, the proposed 2014 and 15 budget. And I've got 1, 2, do I just have these two, Diane? Is that right? Okay. Let's start here. Nigel Christopher, welcome back. Nigel, if you'll come on up to the podium.
Good evening. Good evening. I really don't have anything much tonight. I just want to thank you for working on the format of the budget and having copies available. And the last email you sent me today, if you might just go over that so that some people have got ideas of where the changes in the expenditure are.
Sure. So tell me specifically what, so I don't talk too much or talk too little. You're talking about the main items that were...
Those main items that you listed,
Okay.
Just let everyone know about those, that would be great.
What Nigel is referring to, and Nigel had asked for a more appropriate summary of our budget. And what I've done, and I've made some copies available if anybody would like to see these, the details of the budget, every single 176 pages worth, is posted on our website. You can find it there if you'll go to our website, and you'll go to the, I think it's under the auditor section. You can see all of the detail. And that detail will give you actual expenditures, revenue over a multi-year period. I think 11, 12, and 13, and then has the 2014, the current year numbers, as well as the new proposed budget numbers. What I've got available for you tonight, and again, if I didn't have enough copies, I'll be glad to get you some more copies, and that is a summary. And Nigel just had asked to see, I'd like to have a comparison of the current year's actual results. Now, we won't have actual final numbers until the month is complete or when the year is complete. But what we do have is numbers that are up to date within about 2 weeks of the end of the year. So I've provided that number for the current 2013 and 14 budget as compared to the proposed budget, or excuse me, 2013-14 actuals, and we've also given you the 2014-15 budgeted numbers so that you can see where there are increases in that budget. In that summary I had given to Nigel, there were some specific large amounts that you need to know about that are expenditures that are non-recurring, or at least they're not very often. And I'd like you to keep those in mind. We had a $200,000 expenditure that is included in this year's budget that represents the county participating in one half of the purchase of a new fire truck that will be owned jointly with the city of Mount Pleasant. We currently each own a fire truck or one of the large fire engines. It's time for a third one to take some pressure off of these older vehicles. And with that third one, we decided that it was in the best interest of the county and the city, instead of deciding whose turn it was to buy that new fire engine, that we would split the cost and own it jointly. Come on in. There's also $200,000, another $200,000 figure that is set aside in the budget for the remodel at the Ratliff building. There was another figure of $125,000 that is included in this year's budget, which is the county's contribution to the health insurance plan. This item did not show up in last year's budget because in last year's budget we had had a good year in the health insurance account, and we didn't have the need to fund an additional $125,000 as we had been doing. But this year, in order not to let that account get too low, we are funding $125,000 to meet the needs of our self-funded health insurance plan. We've also added, I think, over and above, we've got a $200,000 figure in contingency, and that's an increase of roughly $100,000 over the contingency element from the current year. Is that about right? So again, to run down those figures here, these are all significant figures, and these all show up in our 2014-15 proposed budget. $200,000 for a fire engine, $200,000 for the remodel of the Ratliff building, $125,000 to fund our self-funded health insurance, and $100,000 in contingency, so that we can use that contingency fund if something that is unbudgeted comes up. This year we've made several emergency budget adjustments, and we don't want to continue that practice. We would like to have adequate monies that are budgeted. So therefore we have $100,000 in additional contingencies this year. Nigel, did that cover those main topics that I put in that email? Okay. But once again, copies are available for you, and if I don't have enough copies, I'll email them to you, I'll fax them to you, or I'll make additional copies before you leave. And this is a 3-page summary of the major accounts. And for the budgeted year, it tells you what our current beginning fund balance is going to be on October 1, what the anticipated revenues are from whatever source, whether it's taxes or if it's a revenue earning account, what the expenditures are that are coming out of that account, and what we anticipate the ending fund balance to be in that account. And again, that's for the current budget year. And we've also given you current 2014 year-end September 30th actual numbers, actual being at least within 2 weeks of the end of the year, so that you can easily sit there and look and see where the significant increases in these accounts are. Now, of these large budgeted items that I've mentioned to you, we are not paying for all of those with tax increases. A good bit of this, several $100,000 of it, is going to be taken from our fund balance. We are estimating a beginning fund balance of about $5.6 million, a very strong fund balance. We've been building up this fund balance over several years with very specific purposes, and that is to be sure that we have enough money to complete the loop project. And each day that goes by, we get closer and closer to that objective, but we're not quite there yet. There are still some uncertainties, but those uncertainties continue to dwindle, and we feel like we're going to be in very good shape on that project, and we feel like that the day is coming in the not-too-distant future when perhaps we will not need to maintain that month's money in the fund balance. But I'm proud to say that we are in very strong shape. If you'll read your news about our neighbor to the north and east, up there in Bowie County, are having to take some pretty drastic measures because, and I don't know what all the reasons were, their fund balance got down to a dangerously low amount, and they're having to make some huge tax increases to make that up. All right. I've got one more speaker that's going to address the budget. Is there anybody that has a question tonight? This is your time to ask any question you want to ask. If we don't have the answer, we'll get you an answer. Okay, I've got a second speaker here. Ma'am? I still didn't understand you. Oh, 2 and 7. 2 and 7. Okay, Nigel, okay, well, Nigel is asked to speak on number 2 and number 7, and you, Michael, are only speaking on item number 7. Okay. Nigel, remind me when we get to number 7, okay? All right. I don't want to bring this to a close. I don't want to rush anybody. Again, this is your time. We'll pass you a mic. Anything that you'd like to say? Let me remind you, we will have our second of 2 tax rate hearings on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. We had our first one last week on Wednesday morning. We'll have our second one this Thursday night at 6 p.m. I imagine, Lou, will it be in the paper tomorrow about a settlement on the valuation of the Luminant plant, or are you even aware of that? She didn't? She didn't? Well, I just got news not too long ago that they did get a signed agreement and they have reached a settlement on that Luminant valuation. So we hope that that will bring some more certainty to our picture here in establishing a tax rate. And I think we'll have some good news come from that, but it's too early. We have not had a chance to ask the appraisal district how this final settlement affects what we can do with our tax rate, but we hope that we will have that here within the next few days. All right, I'm going to move on then. Item number 3 is to consider and possibly approve minutes from our September 8th regular meeting of the Commissioners Court. This was our first meeting of the month 2 weeks ago.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to approve minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve September 8th regular meeting minutes.
Sir.
Second by Commissioner Hockaday. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 4, consider and possibly approve minutes from our September 17th special meeting and public hearing of the Commissioners Court. This was our first tax rate hearing, and we also discussed some matters related to county insurance, property, casualty, liability insurance.
I'd like to make a motion to go approve September 17 minutes. Also.
All right. Another motion by Commissioner Hinton and a second by Commissioner Fields to approve the September 17th minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that was a difficult set of minutes. Joyce, thank you for working and reworking those for me. Item number 5, consider and possibly award bid for the expansion of the computer room. Chris Basham was going to be here tonight. We had a chance to visit here earlier today, and Chris was not real pleased with his bids that he got on that. I asked him not to even share those results with me or with the audience tonight so that we don't disclose any bid information from those that are potentially interested in bidding on this project. So he's going to go back to the drawing board and see if we can't get some better numbers to revise the configuration of our computer room and expand that space over there in the annex. So I'm going to ask that you all consider tabling this until a future date. Motion by Commissioner Hockaday. Second by Commissioner Fields. All those in favor of tabling the award to bid the expansion of the computer room, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 6, consider and possibly approve recommendations for proposals on our property and casualty insurance. We had gotten into this at our last Wednesday meeting on the 17th, and here we had talked quite a bit comparing two very good quotes, one from Texas Association of Counties and one from CAPS Insurance. And I believe we've got representatives here tonight. There's Todd, and from CAPS Insurance back there in the back. Tell me again your name. Jim, and your last name? Fraley. Gentlemen, before I begin talking about this, would you like to address the court on anything that may have come to your mind over the last few days? Todd, I know you've had a chance to think about this, and I don't know if I've got a brief. Why don't you let me read this brief statement that you sent to us here, okay? And then I'll still give you a chance to follow up on that. Good morning, Commissioners. Wanted to send a follow-up note thanking you for your consideration of allowing TAC to handle your property and casualty coverage. Per our discussion, many additional services and training will be provided and are available to Titus County and its employees at no additional cost. These include, but are certainly not limited to, the following: law enforcement consulting. Focus on issues related to law enforcement operations. We've partnered with the Public Agency Training Council to provide a set of critical task model policies. This service assists counties to reduce liability risks, lower claims exposure, prevent losses, and enhance the performance of county officers and employees. Online training, webinars, and instructional videos are all available, as well as access to training activity reports that supervisors can utilize to track the training of their staff. Risk control consulting includes on-site safety training, site and building inspection for employee and public safety, claims analysis, and heavy equipment training on how to use and mount the piece of equipment safely. HR. Consulting provides employment-related assistance. Topics could include the federal and state employee laws, including employee discipline, termination, employee leave, discrimination, and harassment. Policy review and job description training are provided as well. Risk management consulting. Review of coverage documents and applicable endorsements, review of automobile, heavy equipment, and building schedules to ensure accuracy and identify exposure. We will also be providing a property appraisal of all county-owned buildings and contents. The county can choose to use as much or as little of most of the offered resources here at TAC. Our goal is to assist the county in protecting its valuable resources with the coverage and provide the training and consulting to mitigate potential losses. Best regards, Todd. Todd, you want to add to that?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. Jim, anything that you would like to address the court about? Thank you for showing up in Steve's place tonight. I know Steve was not going to be able to come tonight, but just give you your fair share on making any statement if you'd like.
Well,
Can I get you to come up to the mic here if you'd like? We'll pass you a mic. How about that? Why don't you make it easy on him and pass him a microphone?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm kind of a substitute for Steve, but
I understand. I
he's a
thank
lot
you for
smarter
being
than I
here.
am too, by the way.
No, I don't
we do have and tried. I think we sent some information about our online web-based training for police officers and all that. And risk control is available. I think we sent that as well.
I had a visit with Steve on the phone about that as well, and he explained to me the resources he had available. I think he even might have had a conversation with our law enforcement about that available training as well.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. I don't know if any of y'all still have your summary sheet that I made for you the other day. If not, I provided another one that's in black and white. I want to make sure each of you has that there in front of you so that we can discuss this. Two-page going over all the individual lines of coverage in column form between the two quoters.
I've considered this, all the things that we went over the other day and the prices, and TAC only has one customer, the county government. This is all they have to do. This is all that they service, whereas CAPS has many different companies and many other customers, and the county auditors and business would have to deal with all of the 3 or 4 companies that CAPS's plan contains. And therefore, I make a motion that we accept TAC's bid. It's about the same price based on those facts.
For the entire package? For the entire package?
The whole package to TAC.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. Again, just to go over this to make sure, if you'll recall, we were not going to include the cyber liability. That was not provided by TAC. It was provided by CAPS. However, we have a better quote in the form of a renewal from Buford. All right, so it is your motion that we give all lines of coverage, and let me just run down these: general liability, excess liability, auto physical damage, property, equipment breakdown, scheduled equipment, public officials, employment practices liability, law enforcement, crime, and fiduciary liability. And it's your motion that that be awarded to TAC. And we have a second. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I am opposed.
Judge, what I'm looking at, of course, I think both companies are good companies. What I was looking at is I guess it would be separating the numbers, and whoever had the lowest one would go with that. But my answer is no at this time.
Okay, well, fellas, you know, is there any, I'm just curious. Well, I don't know. I guess I am just curious how we so quickly arrived at this decision when our numbers are so close, and you're not even going to consider splitting up some of this coverage between the two companies when you clearly have some far superior quotes, for example, in auto physical damage and auto liability. Whether you give some strong credit to TAC or not in certain areas, and I'm sure that they deserve it. I don't think that there's anything here that would be inferior coverage by either company. Once again, I'll just state my position was simply, I certainly believe these quotes are close enough that to not give this business to our local provider with 40 employees seems absolutely absurd to me. All right, well, there's our vote. We have 3 for and 2 against. Gentlemen, thank you. I guess that's all. I will move on to the next item. We will have to consider filling in some gaps here. We do have some fiduciary liability that is not offered by TAC. So we will have a gap there, and but that's something we can deal with at a later time. Okay. All right, moving on. Item number 7, consider and possibly approve changes to the Titus County and District Retirement System Plan provisions for the 2015 plan year. Just to clarify, I know it's got a lot of folks in attendance here, perhaps over this one item, but let me make it clear what my intentions were. Each year we have to formally state to the the Texas County and District Retirement System whether or not we're going to be making any changes to the plan. Back at budget time a couple of months ago, when this issue was discussed, and we even had a meeting with our representative from TCDRS, it was the consensus, I believe, of the majority of the court that there not be any changes made. However, I must submit an answer to them one way or another by December of this year. Are there going to be any changes? Are there not going to be any changes? And if you are going to make any changes, where will those be? And since we did not take any formal action on this back during budget, we need to take formal action on this. And so here's the opportunity for the court to tell me what you would like to instruct TCDRS to do. Now, since it has come up both in the discussion of the budget and here at our last meeting, Commissioner Riddle proposed considering lowering the current employer match, which is set right now at 250%. This is the maximum allowable match that the county can participate. And what we learned during our budget discussions and during our meeting with TCDRS is that we are in the upper percentile, or excuse me, we are in a low percentile as far as how many counties in the state of Texas participate at the 250% rate. In other words, there's not very few. I can't remember what the exact percentages were. I want to say it was less than 10% participate at that level. The majority of the counties in Texas participate at a lower amount, most right around that 200% match. We have been at 250% for several years. So I did print out a current and proposed plan comparison. And not that we are proposing a switch here, but since the figure of 200% was brought up, I gave that as a comparison. So to run down what we currently have, we have an employee deposit or an employee match of 7%. That is the maximum amount that an employee can contribute. And that is, in fact, where most counties are. 7% seems to be the number one rate if you were to poll all of the counties. The employer matching, we are currently at 250%, again, the maximum. If and when any changes would be made to that employee match, it would be for future calculations. In other words, somebody that's retiring at the end of this year, if we were to make a change to 200%, that doesn't mean that we recalculate all the years of service that they've had. It would only be in effect from January 1 going forward. At this time, we require 8 years of service, rule of 75, which is age plus total years of service to the county. There are a few other details in here. We do not have a cost of living adjustment. There's not a group term life element included in here, and there's not a partial sum payment at retirement. To quantify this, right now the upcoming year, 2015, the amount that the county will have to contribute in order to fulfill their 250% obligation will be 11.18% of total payroll. Our total payroll runs right at $5 million, so you can do the math. It's about $500,000 in this upcoming year, as well as the current year. I think the rate was 11.17. So there's going to be a very slight adjustment from 11.17 to 11.18% for the upcoming year. Fortunately, the plan had some better earnings, and we were not forced to make the kind of increase that we had anticipated we would have to last year. If we were to consider going to a 200% match, the required contribution for 2015, instead of 11.18, would be 9.18%, roughly a 2% difference. So if you were looking at the $5 million payroll, 2% less contribution would result in somewhere right around $100,000. I think Commissioner Riddle had mentioned $93,000. That may be more exact, but it's going to be roughly that $100,000 amount. So that is potential savings that we could see if you were to consider reducing that employee match. A volatile subject, absolutely. Nonetheless, it's one that this court has got to make a decision on. Is it going to change any of these terms? If not, I need to notify TCDRS. If we are going to make any changes, I need to tell them what changes to make. With that said, I will be quiet, and I'm going to invite Nigel. You had asked to speak on this subject, so I'll invite you to come back at this time if you'd like. Okay, all right. Commissioner Riddle, did you have anything that you wanted to add on this subject?
Yes. First of all, it's $100,000 if we go to $2 instead of $250. But this determined from 11.18, 2015, starting in January, was based on the fact that we lost money in 2008. So to fund our, if the retirement plan has not lost that money, we would only be about 8% of our payroll to fund, but all of the difference is the makeup. We're having to make up money. The fund is not 100% funded right now, so we're having to throw in the extra money from 8% to this 11.18. And it was projected to go to 11.75, right on up to 13%. But that was based on the amount of money they lost in 2008. And we've had the good years. But each year, this 9.18 is what, 11.18 is what it is going to be for 2015. And that goes to, they've got it, it drops to 10.54. But next year, that's only good for right now. If they lose money, the stock market gets bad, it'll go right back up. Or if it gets better, it can go down lower. In other words, we're making up from 8% to the 11.18. We're making up 3.some% of the loss they had in 2008. And this is the problem. And we don't know. And if you look at the retirement plan, these extra money we're putting in that plan is 2029 or 24. It's number of years. So we're going to be faced with a number of years like this extra money, percent of payroll. And $100,000 is a lot of money. And that's how much we could save if we dropped it to $2 instead of $2.50. And then the 7%, that's what we choose. And the retirement plan will not let the count as if some employees 7%, it has to be 7%. We want 5%. That your contribution is the employee's contribution. It has to be everybody in the county. So that's another factor that could be changed, but it has to affect everybody. So I don't know whether everybody's aware of that. They should be aware that. And the judge last year said it would solve the problem. We could let people put in 4% or 7%, but they wouldn't allow that, correct?
Well, they will allow it, but it has to be across the board. Like you said, employees cannot choose the amount of contribution they make. We as a county decide what percentage match the employee makes, and then every employee is required, it's not optional, to have 7% of their pay withheld.
But that's the only flexibility we have. We can go from 4% to 7%, whatever we pick in between, and then we can do the matching part, but it's all going to be based on what we're charged for the makeup. And it would only be 8% if they hadn't lost money, if it was completely funded right now. They have 8.02 is all it would require to fund our present situation. But I can't believe between now and 2029 it's not going to change one way or the other, up and down. It's going to be flexible until it's funded completely, and that's a long time off, 2029 from now.
You know, another thing that we had talked about but quickly found out the answer, this is not a plan that we can change going forward. In other words, we can't grandfather in employees and allow those current employees or those with a certain amount of tenure to maintain the current specs of the plan and change it for all new hires. You can't have, we are locked into this plan. It is not optional. Any change that you make for future employees is a change that you make for current employees. So we don't have that flexibility. We spent a good bit of time talking about a grandfathering in of existing employees when we talked about health insurance for retirees. Unfortunately, the retirement plan is not something that we can change in the current year for new employees.
Judge, I'm going to make a motion that we stay with the plan we've got and not make any changes.
Okay, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hockaday.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. Nigel, at this time, would you like to speak? Okay. Michael, where's Michael? I know. Oh, there you are. You've asked to speak on this subject. You're welcome to come up to the podium.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Titus County employees, commissioners, judge, and citizens of Titus County. I'm Lieutenant Michael Garcia with Titus County Sheriff's Office Jail Division. I'm a dedicated employee for Titus County and have served faithfully now for just over 9 years. I really enjoy the people I work with, the service I do, and more importantly, the citizens of Titus County I serve. The first thing I want to say is we are all grateful for the current benefits and employment Titus County has given us, and please do not interpret what I'm going to say as anything else. I want to speak to you today about the possibility of this court cutting employee benefits. Every county in Texas operates about the same way as Titus County does. Therefore, it has about the same assets and liabilities. We all know the biggest assets most counties have are its employees and the property it has. The reason I say most is because some counties, through administrative actions, have turned its employees from assets to liabilities. Why would a county do this, you ask? Well, even though the intention it had of saving money was good, the outcome was catastrophic. They saved money by cutting employee benefits, pay, and even hours, forcing the dedicated professional employees to seek employment somewhere else so they could support their families adequately. These actions created an unprofessional, untrained, and even uncaring environment for the office they work in and the service they were supposed to provide for the citizens of that county. Speaking on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, this is a business. It is a business that creates revenue and a business that assumes an even greater liability. The customers we serve are you, the citizens of Titus County. I am sure if you heard the term, you get what you pay for. We do the jobs that you can't do or don't want to do to protect you, your family, and friends, providing all of us a safe place to live and raise our families. Yet, some of you here today say, let's cut benefits and fair compensation to save us a few bucks. The clients we tend to are the murderers, sexual predators, drug dealers, thieves, and even the mentally incapacitated, just to name a few. And by the way, your jail currently has all of those I just listed. Most of the clients that local law enforcement encounter or come through the doors of the jail are innocent until proven guilty. I use the term innocent because they have numerous rights and privileges. That creates the same amount of liabilities. There are vast amounts of laws in law enforcement we must enforce, and even more we have to follow. If we violate just one of these laws, or one of the violators we encounter, unintentionally, mind you, the officer faces a huge personal liability, but the county and its taxpayers face an even larger amount of financial responsibility. What does this matter to you? Here's a small example of what you pay for now. It matters because you have a jail administrator that knows all the laws, rights, and privileges that inmates are entitled to. He constantly ensures all the regulations are adhered to all the time. We have highly trained professional jail staff that perform the day-to-day operations of the jail, enforcing, following, adhering to regulations to ensure a safe, clean jail, limiting the liability as much as possible, doing this 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They face danger all 12 hours of their shift, physical danger, mental danger, and even financial and civil danger. Last year alone, 3 jailers got spit in their face by inmates. One of those inmates has hepatitis C. That jailer has to live with the fear of knowing that he could carry disease to his family, and he also has a mental burden to carry with that. Does anybody know who that jailer was? That was me. Also, just this past weekend, because a dedicated professional jailer was performing his duties to the letter, he observed an inmate trying to hang himself. He stopped a suicide from happening in our jail. I can't even think of what the county would have been facing liability-wise had the jailer not been professional in his duties and cared about the job he or she does. It is very frustrating because every year a small handful of people come to this court trying to destroy everything we do for the citizens of this county. They say they do it to help the taxpayers, but the reality is it'll only be more expensive in the long run to fix it after it's broken. Another observation needs to be made is why are we the only taxing entity that gets attacked when other taxing entities have to make the same adjustments to the tax rate like we do to serve the public? These other entities are the school district, the hospital, the college, and the city of Mount Pleasant. All these entities have to make adjustments to operate effectively so they can do their jobs. They adjust the tax rate and no one attacks them. Yeah, we get attacked when all we're trying to do is serve our community like all the taxing entities do. Please do not handicap us by making a decision that will keep us from employing qualified people. We ask that you make the right decision for the citizens of Titus County and for the employees that serve the citizens of Titus County by not making cuts that will rid Titus County of its good employees. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Lieutenant Garcia. All right. Was there anyone else? I think that was all I had. Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. The motion is to make no changes to the current plan and to report that to TCDRS by the 1st of December, and this is for any changes for the 2015 year. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you. Item number 8, status report for Titus County pass-through projects. We've got a string of these here in a row, and I guess you're going to handle all of them, Mr. Heidecker, so I'll get comfortable up there. Let me say thank you for coming back again so quickly after last week's opening, and for making the ribbon cutting on our new road so nice and making such a nice road for us. We appreciate it, and I'm getting lots of positive comments about it, but it is a very nice road, and it looks to be pretty busy.
It is that, Judge. Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioners, Judge, good evening. Pass-through program is winding down, we are proud to say. We've got 2 projects complete and open to traffic. The last project, FM 4000, they are still currently working on. But I want to give you just a brief little update of where we are on that, and then we can tackle the next few agenda items. On US 271...
Can you give me a break for just a second?
Yes, sir.
I've given you a one complete stapled package that has more than just Mark's colored packet. It'll have the change orders in there as well as the proposed agreement with James, just so that you aren't looking for that. I'm
Sure.
sorry. Thank you.
And at first, we'll go through just the status update. For the construction of US 271, that project was being constructed by Williams Brothers Construction Company. To date, we've paid them $72,738,017.45. That does include material on hand as well. 663 days of contract time, and we did open the road on September 16th. So at that time, we did stop the time on the contract since we have reached substantial completion. As we're aware, right now, Williams Brothers is still installing a few remaining traffic signs. These are new signs that were added by Mr. Roger Ledbetter with the Atlanta area office. We're having those made right now, and then those will be put up here in the next few days to get the last remaining traffic signs added. There's also a little bit of shouldering up, a little bit of dirt need to be brought up to the edge of the roadway. Williams Brothers is working on that right now as well. We did get a punch list from the area office. We construction folks have been working to clear most of those items, and we've pretty much got that wrapped up. We have not yet received a punch list item from Mr. Bob Ratcliffe, who is Atlanta TxDOT District Engineer. We did get word today that he will be out there Wednesday to perform a punch list. He has about half a day scheduled for that. So as soon as we get that punch list from them, we will be sure review that punch list, attack the viable options that need to be addressed in the contract. Those that we don't need to be addressed, we'll be working with Atlanta District and the area office to mitigate those problems as well. But hopefully we'll get the final punch list by the end of the week. That way Williams Brothers can get started on that right away. That's pretty much it for 271. Since that is open for traffic, you know, everybody that attended, there was a nice ribbon cutting ceremony. Appreciate everybody coming out. Traffic is flowing. A lot of truck traffic is being directed on 271. So glad to get that behind us and get that open for everyone. FM 4000 is our last remaining pass-through project here. James Construction Group is the contractor. To date, we've paid them approximately $15,069,110.08. Their contract time was 383 days. They have been charged 362 days, which leaves a remaining 21 days left. The last charge day right now is October 20th. Obviously, James Construction is not going to complete the contract on schedule. We've been working with TxDOT as well as James Construction and Commissioners Court on ways to speed the process up, and we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail on a proposal we have from James Construction. Right now, currently, they do have a dirt crew out there working on placing flex base from the railroad to 271. That's on the west end of the project. They also continue to work on the cross street, FM 1735 as well as FM 2348. And they're on phase 1B right now with still 2 more phases to go. Currently, right now, the proposal are really in the construction plans for FM 1735. The plan is to place flex base and treat it with cement to speed up the process. They have done that to date. That was an additional cost that James Construction took on their own. If not, they'd have to wait a 10 to 14-day curing time before they could move on with the seal coat, so they went ahead and did the additional 2% cement-treated base. Currently, the contractor has plans to place seal coat Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. They are out of season because TxDOT has a seal coat season from May 1st to September 1st. They would be placing that out of season at risk. If it held up till next May, they wouldn't have to redo it. If it didn't hold up, then they would have to place more rock and oil as well. Pretty much same thing for FM 2348. Needs seal coat placed on it. Their plans were to start on that this week as well. On half of the road, they still would need to tear the other half out, treat the cement, treat the base at this time with lime, fly ash, and then they would probably do 2% cement treated base in that as well. Currently, James Construction has put a proposal on the table to go in with asphalt on those 2 FM roads, and so this is something we need to discuss with Commissioners Court if this is something Titus County is willing to look at. If so, they're willing to start the asphalt in the next couple of days, which would allow for the completion much quicker of FM 1735 and 2348, get the roads back to their original condition to where they were, get the detours out of the way, and make it a lot safer traveling area for the public, for the college, and so forth. We do still have a bridge crew here on site. They're working on pouring the traffic rail right now at Hart Creek, as well as the foundation for the walls number 1 and 2. There's concrete paving crew here. They placed asphalt base on Friday by the bridge over there by Mr. Prefert's, as well as they're about to start. The phase will include 271 southbound lanes, as well as FM 1000 west of 271, as well as City Street. The retaining wall crew there on the bridge, they pretty much wrapped up. All 4 walls are complete. So right now they'll start processing base there as well, and then waiting on the flex base or the seal coat, which will not be able to start until May of 2015. Last part, like I said, is the seal crew. The seal coat crew right now is pretty much put on hold until we can get back into season for the main lanes of FM 4000. That will not be able to be complete until May once the weather gets back to the right temperature. And so James Construction has planned to winterize the entire project. That would be get the final completion of the cross streets done, get all signs up, ditches worked, grass done, the bridge complete, and then when they come back in May, all they would be left with is seal coat and striping. So, we're looking forward to that and working with James to make sure that they do reach, their completion of that. Any questions of where we are on really FM 4000 with 271 being complete and waiting on the punch list from TxDOT Atlanta office?
Before you move on, talking about this option to go with asphalt, which I'm familiar with because we've discussed it, you and I have.
Yes, sir.
These guys are not as up to date on that, and I know you're going to go over that in detail. If we were to stick with things the way that they are and say, you've got to get those 2 intersections out there at Union Hill and the Chapel Hill Road finished, they would move forward with seal coat operations?
They would only move forward with 1 course of seal coat this week because the weather will allow. It will take them another 30 to 45 days to process the other half of the road get it to where it would need to be ready for seal coat if the weather would allow, which would mean the ground temperature would have to be 70 degrees and rising, and they would have to stop work when it got to 80 and falling.
Are we even achieving that right now?
No, sir, we're not. So that's why we're saying they are laying seal coat at risk. We would have to go ahead and pay them for the seal coat. And in laying the seal coat, there's a couple of courses. They lay a first seal coat with oil and rock, let traffic get on it for 14 days, and then they'll come back and lay a second course over the top as well.
What does seal coat do when it's laid out of season and it doesn't work like it's supposed to do? What are the ramifications? What happens to that road?
All the rock that you see on top of the road, it ends up just, it will not adhere to the oil because the temperature of the oil has to get hot enough from the temperature outside to kind of melt the oil enough to where the rock will sink down into it and then stick. When the oil doesn't get hot enough to allow the rock to, adhere to it, the rock all falls out into the ditch, and then we're left with a road that has nothing but oil on top of it. And we did this on the 271 on some of the frontage roads there, and Williams Brothers ended up having to go back and add another course, a third course of rock and oil because they laid out of season.
Well, if we're in agreement that the weather is not, of course we're out of season, but if the weather was good enough, I understand there's a chance that it might work. But if you and I and James Construction all agrees that the weather really isn't good enough, what would they do, in your opinion?
In my opinion right now, after talking with James Construction, their plans are, before we talk about the proposal that they put on in front of the Commissioner's Court at this time, their plan was, there's three phases. They've got 2 lanes, the original road, that they haven't torn up. They have 2 new lanes that they built. They've already did the base, cement treated it, it's ready for seal coat. They could go seal coat that the first time. It's out of season. Will the rock hold? I can tell you we've tried it up here before and it didn't hold. TxDOT says it absolutely will not hold. You're going to be back here laying it again. So in doing that, they're spending money to lay seal coat. Then they would have to move traffic up to the top, what we're calling the top lanes, come back, process the road surface, tear up the existing pavement that's out there, the asphalt chip seal type deal, then treat that with cement treated base, lime, fly ash, so forth, let that sit for 10 to 14 days, and then if the weather would allow, they would try to put another layer of seal coat on that side, which would be out of season, 30 to 45 days. Weather temps are not going to be where they need to be since we're not there now. Then once they got both sets of lanes, all 4 lanes over there covered, then they would come back and do a final layer over the entire road to make it seamless across, which you would hope the weather would be there again. So with that being said, James is not going to be allowed to lay seal coat that's going to work properly per the contract in this time frame stipulated May to September, option 1, that we're not going to adhere to that. Second option is the weather conditions are not there, so the seal coat and the oil and the rock are not going to stick. So what they've proposed is they're willing to come in and lay asphalt, which you can lay in lesser temperature with an IR bar. A lot more expensive, but it's a permanent solution. It's a permanent fix. They can complete 100% of those cross streets, put them back to the way they were, get normal traffic on both sides, get your normal width of lane, take out all the barricades, get it all striped, all signed, and completed probably before Thanksgiving. Therefore, avoiding the potential weather problems. There's a safety issue out there right now. I think a lot of folks have drove it. Right now we have we have 2 lanes that are elevated about 3 feet. The other 2 lanes have to be torn up and brought up to the same level. It's limited on the right-of-way that was out there. There's no room. There's maybe a foot to 2 of shoulder out there. People have asked, can the cops patrol it, slow people down? We have advisory signs, but unfortunately, people are driving at the speeds they need to. It's a construction zone. You really need to slow down there. The road's deteriorating. You can't, they've gone in, they try to patch it every day. They bring in cold mix, they bring in hot mix. They've tried everything they can to get that to hold up. It's just not. And then what everybody's worried about, what TxDOT has stated, in the winter months, How are those roads going to hold together? Who's going to be out there maintaining these roads? And TxDOT has stated, if something happens, if the roads deteriorate any more than they are, they're going to force Titus County to go do a permanent fix out there. So in doing that, it's going to be Titus County's responsibility to get a permanent fix. Well, the only permanent fix we can do right now is asphalt or concrete. Chip seal's not going to hold. So we worked with James Construction, the judge, myself, our lead construction manager, met with Pat Planicki, with James Construction, met in the judge's office, discussed an option of laying asphalt. They didn't really want to talk about it. It's a large expense to them, in excess of $250,000 extra. But it's a permanent fix. It would get James out there. James, like I said, they're going to get the job to a point to where it's winterized, and then they're going to leave. So if that's in December or January 15th, or whatever the case may be, they're going to go. And then any problem we have out there, our only recourse is going to be pick up a phone, call them, tell them we've got ruts in the road, we've got potholes, whatever the case may be, and then they're going to come back every few days or whatever and fix it. The problem is, we all know, if they're not on site here every day and those cross streets aren't complete, they're not going to be here every day we call them. We only have limited, resources of what they can do and what we can make them get out here and do. We do have liquidated damages we can charge them, most definitely. But at the end of the day, we're trying to save the traveling public and create a safe environment for our constituents traveling back and forth. And I think to do that, James Construction has put a great option on the table. It would leave TxDOT a much better road on those cross streets. It would leave Titus County a permanent fix over the winter months. And it's going to cost James some money to do it, but it would allow them to complete those two cross streets, allow them to concentrate on the rest of the project of finishing everything up, which would allow them to come back when season starts for the FM 4000 project and just lay the final seal coat on the main lanes, as well as stripe it, and then hopefully be complete by the middle of May, which would start the clock for Titus County to receiving their full reimbursement on the pass-through program.
Going to go into the...
Yeah, so the agreement that Pat Planicki and myself kind of worked over the weekend putting together, it's pretty much, like we were discussing on the two cross streets, FM 1735 and FM 2348. Currently, those cross streets were designed for 2 coats of seal coat. But since the contract stipulated per TxDOT, you could only lay seal coat from May 1st to September 1st, they're out of season. Now, in several meetings, TxDOT has mentioned we need to get those cross streets complete. They're dangerous. It's narrow out there. It's dark. We need to find a permanent solution with that. As I mentioned, there was a meeting with Judge Lee, with Pat Planicki, myself, and Bobby Dick, our construction manager, and we looked at different options. We finally got Pat talked into looking at the option of putting asphalt, type D, 1.5 inches over the cross streets. He went back, ran some numbers, came back at a number of like $250,000, give or take. We asked him to go back and relook at the numbers again. He came back at like $236,000. We told him, look, we'll help him do some stuff, tried to minimize some of his design, talked about some of the rocks, got it down to a little over $200,000. Still a lot more extra money. That's an additional to the money we would have paid them for the seal coat. So talked with Pat, asked him if they were willing to consider that idea, and we would bring a proposal to Commissioner's Court to think about regarding if Titus County would consider waiving liquidated damages from the end of the construction date, which is October 20th, to when they come back May 15th. Now, we talked with TxDOT about liquidated damages. Liquidated damages in this contract were set up at $4,500 a day. Now, with the stipulation of seal coat only being allowed to be laid from May and September, that would be the last remaining item of work. Now, yes, we could hold the contractor out. He could walk off the project, not walk off, but he could finish up as much as he could on the project, not come back till May, but then Titus County is left with an option of 2 cross streets out there that need to be fixed permanently. They need to have asphalt, concrete, something done to them, unfortunately, because seal coat is not an option during the season with the cold temperatures. Pat looked at the options, I think reluctantly finally agreed late Friday afternoon that they'd be willing to go into their pocket a couple $100,000 if Titus County would consider releasing LDs. I spoke with the judge in detail several times about it. The judge was reluctant at first, but we felt like for the traveling public, for the state that the roads are in right now, and for the ability to come up with a permanent solution, this was something we need to bring to Commissioner's Court and get everyone's thought on. Pat at first wanted Titus County to pay for barricades each month. They wanted Titus County to pay for some striping and so forth. We agreed Titus County wasn't going to pay for any of that. Titus County may be willing to reconsider the liquidated damages, because that's not really money in our pocket. That's not money that we're spending out. We'd have to try to collect it from them at some point. I think there's so many days we could collect from them. Me personally, I'm not for sure we could collect from October to May, but you know, that is an option to be considered. But in doing this, you know, if James Construction was willing to go forth and move the asphalt in and hire RK Hall to do that, would Titus County consider, you know, removing the LDs? The judge also wanted to make sure we had some teeth in the document that would for sure make them come back. Because at the end of the day, when they winterize this project and leave, we need them back here the very first day they can finish FM 4000 with the rest of the seal code. To do that, we put an option in the agreement to allow liquidated damages to start May 15th. So in doing that, the goal was to get James Construction back on the project May 1st, if the weather would allow, to allow them 2 weeks of seal coat, which would get the project completely finished by May 15th, give or take, and then get TxDOT to accept it. In doing that, Pat and them agreed that, you know, he felt that was something that they were willing to work with because they wanted to get in here and get out. You know, so, you know, Titus County is if you're willing to come to the table and, you know, consider releasing some LDs, I believe we can get those cross streets finished 100%. We worked with TxDOT on the pavement design, you know, how they want it transitioned. They have required us to go 150 feet back on 1,000 as well with asphalt. We worked with James Construction on that as well. We're also going to feather it into the existing 1735 and 2348. So district is all on board. They'd like to see this permanent fix. They would rather it not be out there like this in the winter. And I think for the public, this is probably the right thing to do. From PTP standpoint, I think we've brought to the table an agreement that's suitable for James Construction. I hope it's suitable for Titus County, but at the end, I think it's what's in best for the traveling public.
Judge, I'm going to say one thing about that out there. I don't think we've had an accident out there, but if we haven't, we're fortunate that we haven't had one on either one of those roads, because at times it's pretty dangerous the way they drive through there. So, you know.
It is, and we have been lucky. We have not had an accident. There was a major accident on FM 2348, unfortunately, and at the end of the day, that's what we're here to avoid, and that's why we brought this to Commissioner's Court tonight. They want to start laying asphalt tomorrow or Wednesday. TxDOT has RK Hall tied up right now for the next day or so, but as soon as they're free, they want to start out there and do it. Most definitely, you know, to save someone's life, I think this is a cause that's well worth it, and so, you know, that's why we're here talking about it, most definitely.
We're ready for the motion.
Well, I'm doing some math here. I want to be sure you understand what we're giving up here. And you realize that, and I'm not trying to sway you not to take this agreement, because I think that this agreement is the right thing to do, but I got to tell you, I'm sick about it, because here we are, this company has taken us, you know, at least 7, if not 8 months late before this project is going to be complete. Not only costing time to our taxpayers and those that depend upon those roads to travel back and forth to town, but here we are, we're going to be delaying our reimbursement from TxDOT, at least on this project, and to a certain extent on the entire project, because until all 3 of these segments are complete, we won't be receiving potentially our minimum semi-annual payment. We've got our debt service beginning March 1st of next year. This project's not even going to be done until 3 months after that debt service payment. So they're costing us real dollars here, and here we're getting ready to waive about 140 days potentially of liquidated damages, and I was just running the math here on that, you know, several $100,000 potentially if we could collect it. And I know that TxDOT has stated that if it was a TxDOT job, they would suspend time and they wouldn't charge them liquidated damages, which to me doesn't make sense when you have a contractor who is the sole source of this delay. This wasn't a problem caused by PTP, wasn't a problem caused by Titus County. It was a problem caused by James Construction Group. And we should have been done with this road here in another month, and instead we're extending it on to May 15th, if they can get it done then. I'm glad that there's, you know, here in this agreement it says that we'll start accruing that $4,500 a day every day after the 15th of May, but in the meantime they're asking us to waive several $100,000, and they're going to be willing to step up and pay $200,000. Well, that's real nice of them. But here we are, we find ourselves in a situation where we honestly, I don't see that we have a choice. Unless I'm willing to say, you know what, just let that road sit out there and rot, I'm not going to let these guys off the hook. First thing that's going to happen is we're going to start seeing accidents over these winter months. You're going to get bad weather, you're going to get snow, ice, whatever else can come along on that road out there that's barely wide enough to get 2 motorcycles across. And here we're going to have traffic for the school and for the college. We can't do that. And we even talked, or at least I asked about us, the county, hiring somebody to go out there and finish that road and put asphalt down and withhold payment to James Construction for whatever we would have given them for seal coat, and us hire RK Hall ourselves and go out there and finish it. And I'm sorry, I don't even remember what your reason was as to why we couldn't do that.
The problem with that is, Judge, you know, you just wouldn't need an asphalt company. You need a ditch crew, you need a pipe crew, you need a base crew, you know, and that's what James Construction is, unfortunately. So now we're talking about going out hiring multiple contractors to do this, fighting with James Construction as well. And, you know, it's just, unfortunately, time is of the essence. You know, could it be done? Sure, but, you know, it'd be 6-8 months a year before we could put all this together and get somebody to come over here to do this small little project. If the county had forces of their own that they could do all this, it'd be a different story, you know, but I don't believe Titus County is equipped to go out there and build a road to TxDOT standards that TxDOT would accept, that would guarantee that we get this $168 million reimbursement that we've been fighting for how many years now. And you're absolutely right, Judge. You know, as far as the, you know, the safety, you know, I hate to say we don't have any other choice, but at the end of the day, we don't have a choice, I don't believe, you know, to protect what we have out there today and to get this, you know, complete before the winter sets in here. We've got to put a permanent solution in place. And we feel we've negotiated one of the best deals we can to date.
Where in this agreement are we protected from them dragging their feet in the completion of this asphalt application out there? In other words, what if it takes them from now till the first of the year because they're slow on this project like they've been slow on everything else?
Right. In paragraph, it says, we have added a paragraph that states that they have to make substantial progress on the asphalt work before the end date of October 20th, or if not, liquidated damages will be present until they finish the asphalt completion.
Who's going to make the determination?
Number 4?
Yeah. Who makes the determination whether or not they've made substantial progress?
Well, in our opinion, Judge, you know, our construction manager, Bobby Dick, myself, Jenny Taraborelli, I mean, we can bring that to Commissioner's Court and say, look, you know, did they lay asphalt? Did they start, you know, tearing up the existing road, adding base material? Pat Planikia said he feels positive they can get it done for sure before Thanksgiving. Now, we get 3 weeks of nothing but solid rain and snow and ice in the month of November. Well, I understand, unfortunately, you know, I mean, they can't be out there working during some of that. But, you know, we don't expect that. So with the time left, before, we're actually thinking the first couple of weeks in November, they can be done and out of there. I think it's very promising that they had asphalt scheduled for tomorrow. In speaking with them, TxDOT had a few changes we were worried about. We did get those worked out today regarding how the tie-ins would be, how they wanted us to extend it on FM 4000 as well. But, they're ready to start. RK Hall is right here. They're doing projects for the airport. They're doing a project for TxDOT. They're here locally. They're ready to get started. And Pat says they're just waiting to see if Commissioners Court agrees with this, and they're ready to get them on the job this week.
You've talked to Atlanta, and they've said the
Yes, sir.
plans that you've worked out?
Yes, sir. I had a conference call today with Buddy Williams, District Construction Manager. There was concerns about the pavement design and so forth, and I think that was really within district. They weren't talking to each other. I had a conference call a couple of weeks back when we were trying to figure out a permanent solution to this when they came to Titus County and said, look, you need to find a way to get these cross streets complete. Buddy had stated we need to mix 2% cement in with the base as well as treat the base with prime coat and then put 1.5 inches of asphalt type D on. So all that has been worked out, the transitions have been worked out, so forth. So yes, all this has been approved through district.
Well, for me, the number one thing we've got to do is safety of the public out there. That's just not safe out there. And, I know Thomas worked on this real hard out at the college, trying to get that road straightened out and get turning lanes put in there, and it's no doubt in my mind it saved lives. And I think the same situation here. I think we need to do it, Judge.
And this is not like something that's new to us. Every other Wednesday when we meet, they stress to James Construction about fixing this, doing this. Y'all need to do it, you need to do it, you need to do it. And for some reason, it just keeps going over their head. They'll go down there and diddle a little while and then...
And Commissioner, you're correct. This is not something new. We've known the lack of work from James Construction 4, 5, 6 months ago. We've been having meetings with them from PTP side. We've been having meetings with a couple of the commissioners, with the judge. There's been weekly meetings. We've been stressing time and time again, show me how you're going to get this road complete. And the answers have always been, we got the crews, we got the crews. Well, just as we predicted, September 1st got here. It's not complete. Now Titus County has these cross streets that need to be a permanent solution put in place. And so we went to the table and negotiated this. It's not extra money out of Titus County. This is not out of the budget. This is not going to cost Titus County any more money to allow them to do this. So therefore, I think it solves a couple of things, It gets the roads done. It gets James further down the road for when they come back in May. They will only have the main lanes to seal coat and stripe. And really, that's a 2-week process. The way James has been, let's say it's a 4-week process. But for any other contractor, it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
Well, it's something we certainly need to do. And
Charge any more money to change the material to do that?
No, sir. No more money. That is all out of James Construction's pocketbook.
They're saying we'll spend an extra $225,000 to give you asphalt roads, and we'll get it done fairly quickly. Those are the pros. The cons are you're giving up the right to charge them for the fact that they're late on this job by many, many months.
That's correct.
So there's some foregone opportunity cost in the form of liquidated damages that they're asking for. And in return, they're saying, we'll spend the money to get you the asphalt. And of course, TxDOT's very pleased. They'd love to have an asphalt road over a seal coat road out there. So they're going to be very supportive of this. And we will end up with a better quality project in the end. So there are some wins here, but it's still is
we
tough
shouldn't
pill
be
to
put in
swallow.
this situation. Titus County shouldn't. This is on the contractor. But unfortunately, there is a safety concern. The detours, the construction that they've done so far is per the plan and per the spec and per the approved plans out of the Atlanta district. The problem is it's just tight out there. And when you're working out there, it's dark. Weather has been decent, but we know what happens when it rains and when ice and snow come out there. and people are not driving 55 miles an hour. We've lowered the speed limit as much as we can, but the traveling public is going to travel what they want to travel, unfortunately.
Another thing, TxDOT's already stated that they were not going to, if we seal coat, which they could do if they wanted to, but they're not going to be responsible for patching it. Somebody's going to have to be out there doing it.
Most
They said
definitely.
it was going to be the county's
And it was-
responsibility to see that it got done.
That's correct.
Okay. Will you commit to us that you will keep them on a real short leash in these weeks ahead? Maybe every week say, hey, Brian, they are on target, or they're falling behind, so that we and they don't have a surprise when we sit down with them and say, listen, you haven't met the terms here of number 4.
Yes, sir.
And
Most definitely.
we're getting ready to,
And I
does
think
that
like
clause right there can negate this contract if they're not?
Like we said, it's a letter agreement between Titus County and James Construction. They're taking us on our good faith that we're going to do what we're going to do. We're taking them on their good faith. They're going to do what they're going to do. At the end of the day, we still do have liquidated damages in here if they don't, get it done. And we've told them, you can't be messing around with those side streets till January, February. This is the whole reason of doing this, is to get this done. I've told them it needs to be done by Thanksgiving. That's giving them a couple more weeks than really they should need. But I'd rather be further down the road and come in and tell you we're a couple weeks early than we're a couple weeks late, which is what, James Construction has done, since day one. But yes, we do believe, from talking with Pat and what they've shown us this week and getting RK Hall out there already to start moving, that's why it was critical to bring this today instead of Thursday, because RK Hall had a small window that they could get the 2 areas that they have ready to asphalt. They could get it this week. If not, it would be pushed back a couple of weeks.
All right, what you want to do? Motion.
Let's go. Let's get it done.
Motion, Commissioner Riddle?
Yes.
Motion by Commissioner Riddle to accept and sign the agreement with James Construction Group that modifies the contract that will result in their completion of the 2 cross roads at Union Hill and Chapel Hill with asphalt, and we will in turn suspend time on them until May 15th. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, and it's unanimous. At this time, we're going to take a 2-minute break. Those of you that are tired of listening to this stuff, you're free to go. I don't want you to feel awkward getting up and leaving. We've got several items more to go, but take a couple of minutes.
Does this get, do we have to do all?
Yeah, those are real ones.
Is that the change order?
Yeah, that's change order 271. Another change order 271. That's one of those that are like signs.
If we do, it may not work.
Another one's a print.
Thank you. Man here.
There's advisory signs. Now, it's not the true law. The problem is you can't. We can't. No, you got to go to Austin to the legislature to get approval. And they're never going to give. Well, there's like little orange advisory signs. They're just advisory.
Let me answer my question.
So big list.
I'm not listening. You can't talk on advisory.
I feel that these people talking about it. He's probably riding bicycle. Yes. All right.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Gwen. Don't worry about it. Everything's good. You like to aggravate. I like to be aggravated sometimes. That's all you get. You got to give it back. That's it.
This next thing is this song, you got that song you put on the whole
Yeah.
15 minutes. Huh? Hey, don't run off. Don't run off. You only have one already written down here.
you doing here?
See you again. Take care.
Why didn't we start there instead of just throwing the baby out with the wash? My goodness.
Yes.
County will be worse off, but I'm gonna have to hang my head and say,
Keep everybody separated.
all right, let's gather back up. Let's gather back up.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I don't blame you. I got to drive to Houston tonight.
You bet. You bet. You did a good job.
All right, we're ready to move on to item number 10. Item number 10 is to consider and possibly approve change order number 13 with Williams Brothers on the 271 pass-through project. And I've given the commissioners a copy of that first page so they kind of know what the nature of these change orders is.
Yes, this change order 13 for Williams Brothers, just doing a little bit of house cleaning. This is for re-drilling for a large sign foundation that had to be moved per a TxDOT request that they did, as well as its payment to repair a crash cushion. Unfortunately, we've been in the business lately of repairing crash cushions from the traveling public that has been damaged out there. Then it's also going to create a pay item for ride quality, which really they're not getting payment for it. It's going to be a deduction, but we don't have that in the plans. The amount's for $6,828.91. TxDOT has reviewed it, area office, Roger Ledbetter, and we do have their approval as well as Williams Brothers' signature.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to approve change order number 13, second by Commissioner Hockaday. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Item number 11, consider possibly approve change order number 14, same company, same project.
Yes, sir. Change order 14 is to add traffic delineators. This is a request by Mr. Roger Ledbetter, traffic. It's a marker to be placed on the center barriers, just like a reflective marker. They were worried at night when people were driving if the center barriers wasn't to be seen as clearly as they had hoped. So it was something that was not in the plans, but an additional request by TxDOT. We placed them every 250 feet. We are hearing TxDOT may come back and ask them for every 100 feet, but we don't know, waiting on the punch list as of yet. And this is also to repair one more crash cushion out there. And that amount is $12,083.50, and Williams Brothers has already done the work. We do have approval from TxDOT as well.
None of this is related to any of the last-minute signage that we had to put up on 271?
No, sir. The last we do have, we are waiting on TxDOT. We made a deal with TxDOT to where they would agree to make the signs, because they wanted the signs up before we opened them. TxDOT went out and added approximately 25 more signs to the US 271 project. The majority of them were speed limit signs as well as route markers. They just felt like they needed more than were there. We couldn't get them done in quick enough, or I should say the contractor, Williams Brothers, didn't. So Roger had some in the yard already done, so we borrowed his signs to mount, and then we'll get the sounds made, give them back to TxDOT. Once we get the final cost, that'll be some of the cleanup in the final change orders, and that will run through as well.
All right. Questions? Need a motion. Motion by Commissioner Hockaday to approve this change order. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval of number 14, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And lastly, consider and possibly approve change order number 3. This goes back to our FM 2348. This is a credit.
Yes, sir. On change order 3, at the time that TxDOT accepted FM 2348, they wanted to wait till seal coat season came back. They wanted Titus County to apply a fog seal on US 67 intersection. Once the season came back, we asked TxDOT to go back out, look at the roads, see if it was really necessary. TxDOT did go back out. They decided it was not necessary. So instead, we now have a credit of $40,788.88 that will close out the FM 2348 project. And that money will go back into the budget.
Make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Fields to approve this credit in the form of change order number 3 on the 2348 project. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'll get those signed. Okay, that takes care of our loop-related business. Item number 13, consider and possibly approve an order regarding disbursements from County Energy Transportation Reinvestment Zone Increment Fund. This was something that was sent to us by TxDOT. This was not an optional deal. This is an order. Let me read this. Be it remembered that on the 22nd day of September 2014, the Commissioners Court created a County Energy Transportation Reinvestment Zone. Well, I guess we'll plug that in with the actual date that we created this. Prior to the distribution of any funds from the increment fund of the County Energy Transportation Reinvestment Zone, the Commissioners Court makes the following findings. Funds available within said increment fund will be dispersed and will be utilized for transportation infrastructure projects located throughout the political boundaries of Titus County. And, item 2, the support and funding of transportation infrastructure projects is a general governmental function delegated to the Commissioners Court of Titus County and authorized by the Texas Constitution and statutes. And number 3, all disbursements from such funds shall be specifically authorized by separate order in conformity with these general provisions. Essentially, there was the worry that by TxDOT or by folks in Austin that forcing a county to use tax receipts, forcing them to use it for only transportation projects could be challenged, and therefore they asked the counties to please let's not deal with any future problems. Let's go ahead and make this a general order within each county that you agree that money spent out of that increment fund will be used for only transportation projects. We've known this all along. That's the way it was designed from the get-go, but I guess they're just anticipating someone making a challenge there. So this is at the request of TxDOT, and I need your approval on that, unless you have any other questions. Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve this general order. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll need your signature on these. I've got 2 different pages that needs your signature. Item number 14, consider and possibly approve our annual maintenance agreement with Net Data for the upcoming year, October 1 of 2014 through September 30th of 2015. And this is a biggie. This is $114,263 for Net Data to provide all of their support services for all of the county software that Net Data provides. Just as a comparison to last year, up from $105,200 up this year to $114,263. We don't have a lot of options here, unfortunately. This is the cost to do business with Net Data.
Judge, I make a motion to approve maintenance agreement.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton. Second by Commissioner Fields to approve this maintenance agreement for the upcoming year with Net Data. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And there are none. There's that signed agreement. Item number 15, consider and possibly approve establishing a credit card merchant account to be utilized for payment of court costs through the coming e-filing system for the district and county clerk. The reason we're doing this is if we enter into an agreement, which this agreement with a credit card merchant is, we want Commissioners Court approval to enter into this agreement. Here again, this is not an optional situation. E-filing is a new and current technology that's coming all across Texas. Every county will eventually be required to be utilizing the e-filing system. It will, it will enable who all will utilize this. I know that attorneys within the county will utilize it. Is that primarily the main user? Okay. But what it will do is it will allow documents that currently are having to be physically brought to the county clerk's office. They make a payment of court costs to you. Now they can sit in the comfort of their office, submit those those scanned documents to you, and pay for it with their credit card online. Okay. And we just want to approve entering into this credit card merchant account. Again, we don't get to choose who that is. That's determined for us, but they will be the ones that provide that credit card merchant function for all of these charges. Tyler Technology is who is providing the e-filing services, and it's Payment Tech that is the clearinghouse or the merchant account provider. So I just need your approval to enter into this credit card merchant agreement. Motion by Commissioner Hinton, second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, item number 16, consider and possibly submit comments to the EPA regarding carbon dioxide emissions rulings and the impact on existing power plants. This is a document that I would like you to listen to. We're trying to send a message to the EPA to please reconsider these rather stiff requirements that are going to be phased in over the next few years, because if these are put into law unchecked, it could very likely result in the demise of coal-fired generating plants within the state of Texas. This is a letter to Gina McCarthy, the administrator at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Dear Administrator McCarthy, this letter and the enclosed comment pages constitute the comments of the Titus County Commissioners Court on EPA's proposal for regulating CO2 emissions from power plants in Texas. We are interested in reasonable and necessary environmental improvements that protect Texas citizens while jobs are sustained and new ones are created in a growing, energy-intensive manufacturing and agriculture-based economy. The economy that we have helped build relies on affordable, reliable electricity from a carefully planned and developed mix of fuels. For the reasons stated in the attached comment pages, EPA's proposal, if finalized, would cause unacceptable risks to the state's electricity system and the benefits it provides. The resolution requests that the EPA withdraw its proposal and redo it within the limited legal authority we believe that the Clean Air Act allows, and without intruding on the sovereign authority of the state to determine how electricity is generated and distributed to its citizens, businesses, and farmers. That will be a cover letter that I would propose that we submit. Here are the comments. On June 18, 2014, the EPA published in the Federal Register a proposal, the Clean Power Plan, for reducing CO2 emissions from existing fossil fuel-powered plants on the Clean Air Act section of 111D. The EPA's proposed Clean Power Plan establishes significant CO2 emissions reduction for coal-fired power plants in Texas that will cause disruptive changes in the state's well-diversified electricity mix. Texas would have only 12 to 24 months after the EPA approves their implementation plans to progress towards meeting their interim emissions target on January 1, 2020. We note that the EPA in its regulatory impact analysis and databases lists potential plant unit retirements for Texas and predicts that 9 gigawatts of coal-fired generation from 18 generating stations will be shut down between 2016 and 2020 due to this clean power plan. The EPA also acknowledges that other power plant units will retire due to its clean power plan, and other plant units across America have retired or will retire between 2010 and 2020 for a total loss of generation that could power 60 million homes due to other recent regulations and factors. Titus County citizens and businesses enjoy high-quality jobs in the manufacturing and agriculture sectors due to much lower electricity rates and higher economic growth than states with self-imposed carbon limits. Texas policymakers, individually and with policymakers from over 30 states, have previously expressed their concern with EPA's plan to regulate CO2 emissions and have supported reasonable environmental policies as long as they maintain predictable, stable, affordable, and reliable supplies of electricity, and have expressed the need to preserve the rights and powers of the state, including the sovereign right of each state to determine the appropriate mix of energy resources to meet its electricity needs. Titus County requests that the United States EPA withdraw the proposed guidelines and issue new guidelines that allow Texas and other states to establish policies that are in the best interest of Titus County, Texas, and the nation. The guidelines should respect the primacy of Texas by allowing Texas to develop plans that establish performance standards and discretion and flexibility in establishing compliance mechanisms. The guidelines should also maintain an adequate, reliable, affordable electrical generating fleet. It should be based on EPA guidelines for cost-effective, achievable reductions at the affected power plant units rather than for the state of Texas. It should establish emissions guidelines based on adequately demonstrated systems that are fuel and technology specific. It should provide credit for significant emissions reductions already being made, should avoid premature retirements and stranded assets, and it should be fair and equitable to all electricity consumers. The EPA should adopt policies that do not conflict with the responsibility of Texas and Titus County to provide affordable and reliable supplies of electricity for its citizens. Titus County is also recommending that our state legislators work with other policymakers in Texas, such as environmental, financial, and agriculture regulators, the Attorney General, Economic Development, and Governor, to provide comments to the EPA on the legal, reliability, affordability, achievability, timing, implementation, scheduling, and other issues that need to be considered for individuals and groups of states to eliminate or minimize these risks. They should continue to engage the EPA and other relevant federal agencies and congressional delegations after the regulation is finalized to eliminate or minimize the aforementioned risks and consequences. So that would constitute the statements that we are making to the EPA along with that cover letter. And granted, this has been, assistance has been provided by SWEPCO in preparing this document, and of course they would like for us to support this in the form of sending these messages to the EPA.
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hockaday.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton, that we submit this letter and these comments to the EPA regarding their pending CO2 emission reductions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 17, consider and possibly approve travel and seminars for elected officials and employees.
Judge, let me ask you a question. When we did our insurance a while ago, were we supposed to do this on Buford down here? Did we get to do that?
We did not do that. Their renewal is in our hands. They have submitted a renewal, and it was only $1,900. It was roughly half of what CAPS had proposed, and was not even bid on by TAC. All right, first item here is John Mark Coburn, County Attorney, would like to attend 2014 Open Government Conference He came up and visited with me about this. This would be a conference. He's never been to training in regards to answering public requests for information and open records. So he's asking that he be able to attend this 3-day conference in San Marcos in October. Since all of our public requests for information flow through his office, he would like to get some additional training on this, and that will be October 21 through 23. Again, San Marcos, $150 registration and 4 days of meals and 3 days of hotel, bringing his total request to $697. Sheila Moon with the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Ingram is requesting that she be allowed to attend the 12th Annual Training Conference for Sheriff's Administrative Assistants. This is also in San Marcos, the end of October, 28th, 29th, and 30th. $100 registration, $120 worth of meals, and $255 plus tax for hotel, and $387 for travel, bringing a grand total of $862. Sheriff Ingram requests to send Jessica Cooper, one of his dispatchers, to a basic operator course in Tyler. This will occur on the 1st through the 3rd of October. Meal request of $20 a day. No registration costs, no hotel costs, just sending her in a county vehicle and paying the cost of fuel. Charity Jeffrey in Paula Dyke's office. She's a civil clerk, and the judge is asking that we send her to clerk seminar for Justice Court in Rockwall. This will be, I think she's got the wrong dates on here, March 18th of 2014 through March 20th. I'm going to assume that's of 2015. Looks like they're wanting to pay the cost of registration now for that 3-day conference. $150 registration. It will ultimately be $100 worth of meals. She'll be sharing a room with Terry Idelot in that office, and they'll be carpooling there to Rockwall. Again, that's March of next year. And then along with her, Terry Idelot, going to the same conference, the same dollar figures, taking one vehicle and adding to that $134 worth of mileage reimbursement. Lastly, Judge Dyke would like to attend next May JP seminar. She needs to pay the cost of registration now. I will be asked to be reimbursed for room, meals, and mileage after I return. I think there was one more that I missed there. Andrea Miller, Records and Evidence Clerk. Sheriff Ingram is asking to send her to San Marcos to Open Records Conference Training, 21st, 2nd, and 3rd of October. $150 registration, meals, $120, hotel, $293, and traveling in a county vehicle. Approximate total cost, $563. That's all.
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to approve these travel requests, and second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 18, approve oral and written reports.
Thank you.
This is that PA letter. It's everybody's signature.
Make a motion to approve reports.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve oral and written reports.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hockaday. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 19, consider and possibly approve the treasurer's report.
Hey, Sheriff.
Make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton. Second by Commissioner Hockaday for approval. All those in favor of approval of the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 20, approve budget amendments.
64, number 65. Number 64 is on the wood project, it's just line item changes. Number 65 is a revenue amendment. We had originally budgeted $250,000 for inmate housing. We're not going to be anywhere near that number, so adjusting the budget down to reflect what I think was a big.
About half that? Okay. Adjusting revenue down on anticipated inmate housing, and then no new money on this other request. This is a loop project adjustment within those existing accounts. Those are the only two.
Make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to approve these two budget amendments.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 21, sign pay orders and approve payments.
Make a motion to pay bills.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton. Second by Commissioner Hockaday. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 22, closing comments. Start on my left end. Commissioner Hockaday.
I don't have any use, thank you.
Commissioner Hinton.
I have nothing, Judge.
Commissioner Fields.
One thing, I just want to remind everybody about the Jam Fest. It'll be starting October the 10th, go through the 18th at the county park. Like good country picking and singing. We usually set up 2 to 4 camps. Be a good place to go, and it's free.
That's really. We have completed our time frame for asking for resumes from those interested in our constable position. That ended today, so I wanted to ask you when you would like to get together to begin the process of making a selection for appointment for the remaining term of Clevie Johnson. If we got this posted in the morning, we could have a meeting Friday morning. I have a 9 o'clock, 2 probates in a row on Friday morning. I could be available as early as 10 a.m. This Friday, or we can put it off to next week.
10, Friday.
10 be all right with each of you? 10 o'clock Friday morning this week. I'll get that posted in the morning with Carolyn's help. All right, I have nothing else. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and there are none. Thank you, everyone.